Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into a genuinely breathtaking narrative today, one all about cyclical fate, human prejudice, and an immortal love that literally spans 4 centuries. The story is the Goblin Century, a soul across time. And let me tell you, this isn't just your standard fantasy story. It's a total masterclass in how narratives can use time and repetition to explore the absolute depths of grief and hope. If you've ever wondered just how much a single soul can endure, well, you're absolutely in the right place.
Seriously, ask yourself, how long would you wait for a lost love? A decade? An entire lifetime? Okay, let's dive into this. At the very center of our story is Kael. Now, the world calls him the Goblin King of Black Hollow Forest, like he's some terrifying creature straight out of a myth. But the reality? The reality is so much more tragic. He's an immortal being with faintly glowing green eyes and these dark markings, and he has outlived entire kingdoms. Underneath the scary title, he is deeply, profoundly lonely. And it's this philosophical question of waiting and enduring that really forms the backbone of everything we're exploring today.
Section 1. The Lonely Monster, a Solitary Existence. To truly grasp the gravity of Kael's story, we have to pull back and look at the immense timescale involved here. And this brilliantly illustrates the 400-year cycle of fate that completely traps our characters. It's like a giant, tragic clock. We start at year 0 with their very first meeting, then we jump forward a full 100 years to the reincarnation, and finally, we take a massive leap to a 400-year epilogue. So it all kicks off at year 0 during this incredibly fierce rainstorm. A human woman named Elara crashes her carriage and stumbles into Kael's ruined temple. But here's the twist. Instead of screaming like literally every other human he's ever met, she just asks for his help. The source text plays so brilliantly with the misunderstood monster trope here. I mean, let's contrast Kael's actual reality with humanity's myth about him. The humans in the nearby village of Eldermere are constantly telling these horrifying campfire stories about Kael, painting him as this violently unpredictable monster. But the reality? Kael spent his time reading forgotten books, playing an ancient flute, and literally carving tiny wooden animals for Elara while she rests and her injured ankle heals. It's humanity that's loud, fearful, and prone to violence. The so-called Goblin? He's just gentle, peaceful, and incredibly isolated. Part 2. The First Tragedy. Shattered by Jealousy. It's honestly fascinating how the author maps this out. They give us a highly logical, step-by-step progression of how this tragedy unfolds, and it's driven entirely by human flaws. It starts small, just whispers in the village that Elara has been cursed or had her soul stolen. Then, enter Lord Cedric. He's the arrogant son of the village chief. Now, Cedric has always wanted Elara, but not out of love. No, it's entirely out of pride. He just hates losing. So he deliberately manipulates the village's latent fear, whipping them into an absolute frenzy until an armed mob arrives at Kael's temple with torches and silver weapons. Make no mistake, Cedric isn't there to save Elara. He's there to stroke his own ego. And this is where we get hit with the absolute emotional gut punch that ends the first cycle. During this chaotic battle, Elara screams out that she chose to stay with Kael. Realizing he can't control her anymore, Cedric throws a silver ancestral dagger. But he doesn't aim it at Kael. He aims it directly at Elara's heart. She dies right there in Kael's arms, whispering these devastating final words, "In another life, find me again." The sheer grief of this causes a massive explosion of dark power from Kael. It completely shatters the forest, swallowing the burning temple in shadows. For the very first time in his centuries of existence, the immortal goblin actually wishes to die. Section 3. A Century of Waiting. The pacing here becomes incredibly methodical. To appreciate the next phase, we have to understand the specific rules of the world the author has built. So the crucial point is how reincarnation actually works in this universe. Souls return across lifetimes, sure, but memory? Memory is tricky. Some souls forget absolutely everything about who they were, but others, they carry these fractured, bleeding fragments of their past lives tucked away inside their dreams. Kael spends an agonizing 100 years clinging to this magical concept, just watching the world modernize around him, desperately searching for Elara's soul. Then, fast forward exactly 100 years. In the bustling, modernizing city of Ravengate, Kael finally senses her. Elara has been reborn as Lyra, a young woman working quietly at a local bookstore. And the text gives us this incredibly beautiful yet tragic detail. Lyra suffers from these intense dreams of a burning forest, falling snow, and a man with glowing green eyes. She always wakes up crying, but has absolutely no idea why. When Kael finally steps out of the shadows to save her from some street thugs, Lyra's soul instantly recognizes him. She feels oddly, unexplainably safe beside this terrifying figure before her human mind can even process who or what he is. Section 4. The Second Heartbreak. Tragic repetition. The author makes a very deliberate, cynical thematic point here by setting up a parallel villain. Think back to Lord Cedric in the first cycle, the prideful son of the village chief. Now, in the second cycle, we meet Damien. He's a charming, smooth-talking businessman who's ruthlessly going after Lyra's family inheritance. The times have changed, the technology has advanced, but the jealous suitor trope, it remains exactly identical. It's the author proving a dark point. Human greed and deception are fundamentally unchanged across the centuries. It's just different faces hiding the exact same poison.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because it turns into an absolute nightmare of repetition. Damien starts digging and actually uncovers the old legends of the Goblin King, figuring out exactly who Kael is. So he sets a trap. He manages to lure Kael and Lyra back to the exact same ruined temple in Black Hollow Forest. He attacks them using silver weapons and chains, and, horrifyingly, he wields the exact same ancestral silver dagger that killed Elara a century ago. History isn't just rhyming here, it is repeating with terrifying, undeniable exactness.
As Damien lunges at Kael with that silver dagger, Lyra, whose memories of her past life have finally, fully returned under the moonlight, moves first. She literally sacrifices herself to the blade just to save Kael. As she lies there dying in his arms, bleeding out from the exact same weapon and the exact same ruins, she begs Kael to promise her one thing. Please do not spend another 100 years alone. Her final words to him are, "I loved you in every life." The contrast in Kael's reaction between these two cycles is just staggering. Back in the first cycle, losing Elara made him want to end his own existence. He spared the humans because it was in his gentle nature to do so. But here, in the second cycle, Kael's mercy has finally, completely run out. Something deep inside him just breaks forever. He unleashes this terrifying, unstoppable storm of shadows. He actually tells Damien that a century ago he spared humanity, but now he has nothing left to lose. The shadows entirely consume Damien, and by sunrise, there's absolutely nothing left of the ruins but dead silence.
Section 5, A Cycle of Hope. Fate becomes merciful.
The aftermath of this is so deeply melancholic. Kael just sits by the river for days, completely broken. But then, Lyra's soul, glowing like starlight, visits him for one final goodbye. Kael is just so exhausted, asking her how many lifetimes he has to keep enduring this pain. But Lyra reveals the overarching theme of this entire journey. She tells him that their souls will always search for each other until fate finally becomes merciful. And in that moment, Kael realizes something profound. The immense agony of waiting is actually worth it. True love transcends the bounds of time itself. He decides he would choose the pain of losing her again and again, just for the fleeting chance to love her at all. And then, the story jumps an incredible 300 years into the future. We are now a full 400 years removed from that original tragedy at the temple. The world is entirely modern now. Technology has totally replaced magic, and massive concrete roads have paved over most of the old forests. But, almost impossibly, a small patch of ancient silver trees in Black Hollow Forest remains standing, mysteriously untouched by time. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is its delicate sense of hope. A young woman, just wearing everyday headphones, goes walking into those snowy woods. Through the trees, she spots a tall man with faintly glowing green eyes, and he feels strangely, deeply familiar to her. She stops in her tracks and simply asks, "Have we met before?" Kael just stares back at her, and slowly, a smile spreads across his face. After 300 agonizing years of waiting, the third incarnation of his love has finally arrived. And the author leaves us right there, just standing in the falling snow with this incredible, lingering question. Is fate finally on Kael's side? Has the curse of all this cyclical violence actually been broken? Or is Kael just stepping into a third inevitable heartbreak? The story really seems to suggest that fate has finally begun to soften, proving that genuine hope can survive centuries of darkness. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. What an absolute masterpiece of cyclical storytelling. Keep seeking out great stories, everybody, and keep asking the big questions. See you next time.